Before we start this video, I'd like to request all my viewers to like, comment, and share the video to help my mission. And don't forget to subscribe to stay updated with the latest videos from the Millennial Bard. Okay, we're less than 48 hours away from the release of Captain America Brave New World. I mentioned earlier that I'm not exactly on the hype train. I think Endgame was that point where they kind of lost me. No Way Home was a big moment, but I think Captain America Brave New World is going to be so influential and so decisive in terms of what the future of Marvel movies looks like. Captain America Brave New World is the first MCU movie coming out in 2025. This is going to be followed up by the Thunderbolts and then the Fantastic Four. I am 99% certain that this movie is going to tie into the Thunderbolts pretty closely, considering that's where we're going to see Bucky next. Probably fair to mention that I'm less than 48 hours away from watching Captain America Brave New World. Going into the movie, I'm going with certain expectations and I've got certain hesitations. Now, before you guys book your tickets and go into the theater, here are some points that I wanted to share with you. So, what I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be talking about the 5 things that I'm looking forward to in Captain America Brave New World. And then I'm going to be talking about 5 things that I'm slightly concerned about. Now, I want to start this video with the 5 things that I'm looking forward to in Captain America Brave New World. Now, I'm going to start with the most obvious one, which is this is going to be Sam Wilson's first outing as Captain America. I know we saw him as Captain America in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, but I think that movie was more about his journey coming to terms with picking up that shield and putting on that uniform. But this is where we're going to see Sam Wilson as a fully fledged Captain America and how he comes to terms with the responsibilities and the duties and the challenges that the mantle poses for him. The next thing that I'm really excited about is getting to see some of those iconic Hulk characters coming to the big screen. Some of them would be returning after the Incredible Hulk, and some of them would be coming on the big screen for the first time. I'm talking about the leader. You saw him in Incredible Hulk. He's the scientist who wanted to help Bruce Banner get rid of his gamma radiation. And we saw in that movie that a drop of Hulk's blood actually it came in contact with a wound on his head, and that's what gave him the big brain. He's one of the most influential villains in Marvel Comics. So I'd be really excited to see him. Red Hulk, I think we've gotten enough footage around Red Hulk to see what he's going to look like and how does he vary in terms of the design from the traditional Hulk that we've seen. So far, so good. I think it looks good. It looks promising. There's not a lot to talk about from a character point of view, but I would be really excited to see if they bring in
that firepower. No, I should probably use another word.
I think it would be amazing to see if Red Hulk still has those flame powers that we see in the comics, where whenever he gets too angry, he starts lighting up on flame. Now, the third thing that I'm really excited about going into this movie is there's going to be more screen time for Isaiah Bradley. If you watch The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, he was this African American Captain America who was created during the Korean War, and he was subjected to the super soldier serum. But the government kind of blacklisted him and put him into prison, and then he had to fake his death to live life as a free man. But towards the end of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we got to see that Sam Wilson really took some steps and pulled a few strings to get him his due. Although in the trailer, we did see that Isaiah Bradley kind of makes an assassination attempt on Thaddeus Ross, the US president. Right now, I think that is just going to be one of those moments where he's probably brainwashed into doing it, but excited to see him. And this gets me to my next point. Is this the first time we're going to see the Patriot? Now, for those of you who don't know, in Marvel Comics, there is another team known as the Young Avengers, and that's where you have characters like Wiccan, Speed, who you've seen in WandaVision. You've got Kate Bishop, the Hawkeye, in there, and you've also got Bradley, who brings in that Captain America energy to that team, being their tactical mastermind and stuff. And honestly, it would be such a fresh change to see the Patriot in this movie. And I think this is probably the perfect opportunity to bring him on board, because for a really long time there has been chatter around a Young Avengers movie in the works, and I think we've got majority of the team already, and this would just complete that entire picture. Now, the final thing that I'm going to be talking about, this may be a spoiler for some people. In that case, you might want to skip a couple of minutes ahead so you don't get to hear it now. During the press release and the press tour, and even what we've seen from the trailers, but it seems Tiamut the Celestial that we saw in the Eternals movie, who is sticking out of the Indian Ocean halfway, that perhaps is going to be the source of adamantium. Now, adamantium is the metal that gave Wolverine his metal claws. It is an indestructible metal. In fact, some might even say that it is far more durable than vibranium. And another thing that we see is in the trailer itself, we see there is an entire fight sequence happening around Tiamat. I think with the coming in of adamantium, it means a lot of things. One is we're probably going to move away from the entire political narrative around Wakanda and the vibranium reserves there. So I think that is a story that's going to be shut down now. The next thing, probably the closest we've gotten to X-Men till now, because if there is adamantium, you know that Wolverine isn't too far behind. All right, now having talked about the things that I'm really looking forward to in Captain America Brave New World, I think it's only fair that we touch upon those 5 things that I'm slightly worried about. I mean, some of these things could mean a lot for this movie coming out, but some things may just be my own personal concerns and they may not even mean much towards the end of it all. Now, the first and the most obvious point here is the recent performance of MCU movies or even superhero movies for that matter. When I think about the last couple of years, I think one word that's been thrown around a lot is superhero fatigue. There were a lot of studios just churning out so much content with movies and TV shows and mini series and a whole lot of other things where it was just becoming very difficult and very challenging for the normal audience. A lot of MCU projects were just downright terrible. Putting things into perspective, I think comic book movies, they are suffering, yes. But MCU especially has been struggling because it is perhaps just a case of them trying to churn out so much content that they're almost focusing on quantity over quality. I think with Bob Iger coming back and MCU kind of reeling back a few projects, I think now is the time that I'd like to think that MCU is looking into quality as well. Connected to this point, the second point of concern for me when it comes to Captain America and the Brave New World is this movie went through a lot of reshoots and a lot of rejigs when it came to, a lot of people behind the scenes and even some of the people in front of the camera. We were supposed to get a full on Serpent Society. We had a WWE superstar who was going to play a prominent role in this movie. But even after all of his footage was shot, I think it was a few months ago that we realized that, all of his footage has been essentially deleted from the movie and they decided to go in another direction. Now, in the creative process, this is not unheard of. You know, a lot of movies and a lot of creative projects that go through a lot of reshoots and rewrites. I think with this movie, it also was in the middle of that storm with the writers' strike in Hollywood. What has essentially happened is when you know that a movie is going through a lot of reshoots, it doesn't give you a lot of confidence because the normal guy who's going to visit the theater is thinking that this movie has gone through so many reshoots. So, are the creators really confident about the movie that they're putting out? Are they really confident about the story that they're putting out? In a lot of cases, pivots don't really work that well because when you started a creative project with one direction and then halfway through you decide that we want to go in another direction, At times it is very prominent when someone like you or me is actually watching that movie, because you have that feeling that I felt this movie was trying to go in another direction, but then they changed it. And I think that could be a problem for Captain America Brave New World. Now, my third point is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It was the second MCU show that was put out on Disney Plus, and to be very honest, I was so much more excited about Falcon and the Winter Soldier than I was about WandaVision. In fact, out of all the Disney projects, all the MCU projects that had been announced, this was the one that I was most excited about because number one, Captain America trilogy was my favorite of the lot, if we're not counting the Avengers. Secondly, Winter Soldier and Bucky Barnes was he's probably one of my top five characters in the MCU of all time because he was such a dark and gritty character, but he also had such a tragic backstory. And similar to Captain America, he's also in this modern world trying to come to terms with the technology and the politics and the entirety of it. But when the show came out, I mean, it was a real letdown. I'm never getting over the fact that we had like a 10-minute monologue where Falcon is just going around telling people that, you don't call them terrorists, whereas whatever they've done is they are acts of terror. And then that whole thing about you need to do better, Senator, and everything. I don't think that sequence really landed well with me because if you've watched my Superman video, I'm a big fan of characters that actually walk the talk, and that's what made Steve Rogers so much special for me because he wasn't all bark. I mean, Steve Rogers as the Captain America would talk when he had to, but he was also willing to take the step and he was willing to do things that really needed to be done. But when you give a 10-minute monologue to Captain America in that series, it kind of defeats the purpose because I don't want to sit in front of the TV or sit in a theater and watch Captain America give a sermon for 10 minutes. I mean, that's not me. And while we're on that point, I think Falcon and the Winter Soldier also tried touching upon a lot of points, but with little resolution towards the end. I think that may have impacted Sam Wilson's first official entry as Captain America. They could have done so much better for him. Even though it is a point of concern, I do hope that they're able to do better with this movie this time around. Now, the next thing that I'm worried about, and I think this has been a concern with most of the Marvel movies for me since Infinity War. Marvel Studios just focuses so much on its advertising and its marketing that you don't know anything about the movie. You haven't even had the trailer, even 3 months before the movie. But then once the first trailer drops, they kind of start overdoing with the trailers and the teasers. I mean, suddenly you've got the teaser trailer, then you've got the trailer, and then you've got the second trailer, and then you've got the third trailer, and you've got the red band trailer, and then you've got the Super Bowl trailer, then you've got the TV spot and a whole bunch of that. And as a marketing guy, I totally understand it is very important to market your movie, push out new content that is going to bring new audiences in, or even nudge audiences that are sitting on the fence to buy tickets and come for the movie. But I think there is a very fine balance where how much of the movie do you really want to give out in those 2 minute slots or in those 30-second slots. This was my concern when Deadpool and Wolverine came out last year, and it is my concern with Captain America right now. We've seen enough footage to piece together that what are going to be the instances and the events in the movie and what some of the talking points are going to be. I'm only worried that have we seen too much of this movie in the trailer? So maybe when I'm sitting in that theater, I don't want to feel like I've seen that scene. Okay, I've seen that on TV as well. You end up realizing that you bought like a 500 rupee ticket and you've already watched the more prominent scenes from the film already, and essentially what you're going to get is just fill in the blanks. So I hope Marvel hasn't overkilled with their trailers. Now, the final thing that I'm worried about, and listen up, guys, this is a big one for me, is are they trying to do too much with this one movie? We've seen with Ant-Man Quantumania, we've seen it with Secret Invasion, we've seen it with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we've seen it with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Sometimes these movies, they just try to do too many things. It's almost like it's a snowball effect where you're going from one thing to the other, But I think, much like Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie or the first Iron Man, I'd much rather have a good movie that's not trying to do too much, but does justice to the little that it is trying to do and really stick that landing for me. Based on everything I know as of now, I know there's going to be Serpent Society. The leader is going to be in there. You've got the Red Hulk. You've got Isaiah Bradley. You've got Tiamat from the Eternals in there. And I'm just wondering that is it a lot, especially considering that this is the shortest Captain America film that we've ever gotten. The last time I checked, the runtime of this film stands at an hour and 57 minutes. I'm going to take 15 minutes out of that just for the credits. But do you think 1 hour 40 minutes is seriously enough time to cover such major plot points and still give us a good political thriller where we're actually on the edge of our seats and trying to figure out what's going to happen next? So please drop a comment and let me know what you feel. An hour and 40 minutes is going to be enough time to compress all of that into this one movie and do justice to every single point. Thank you so much for watching my video, guys. Like always, I really appreciate you taking your time out of your busy lives and coming to my channel. Thank you.